Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Travis Holbrook was 58 years old and had a routine he knew by heart. Every morning, he woke up at 6:15, made coffee while listening to the local Phoenix, Arizona news, and left the house at 7:30 to get to the logistics company office where he'd worked as operations manager for over 20 years. His life with Jessica, his 56-year-old wife, was defined by a comfortable predictability built over 31 years of marriage. They had their suburban home, 2 grown children living in other states, and a routine that rarely faced disruptions. Travis thought he knew Jessica better than he knew himself. He was wrong. It all started on a Tuesday in October, when Jessica walked into the kitchen during breakfast with a smile Travis hadn't seen in months. She was excited, talking quickly, her eyes shining in a way he'd forgotten existed. Amanda, one of her longtime friends, was having a birthday, and she and Melissa had planned a special trip to celebrate, 3 days in Scottsdale at a resort with a spa, beauty treatments, nice dinners, and quality time among friends. Jessica showed him pictures of the place on her phone, an elegant establishment with pools, gardens, and luxurious rooms. Travis immediately supported the idea. He liked seeing his wife happy, and in recent years she'd grown quieter, more distant, always blaming it on being tired from her administrative job at a medical clinic. Maybe this trip was exactly what she needed. On Friday morning, Jessica woke up early, carefully packed 2 suitcases, and said goodbye to Travis at the garage door. She wore a light summer dress, flat sandals, and a perfume he didn't recognize. Travis kissed her on the forehead, wished her a good trip, and waved as she got into the car and drove off. He went back inside, finished his coffee, and was about to leave for the office when his phone vibrated on the kitchen table. It was a notification from his bank app, linked to the corporate credit card he'd lent Jessica for emergencies during the trip. The message was automatic and straightforward. A charge of $847 had been processed at the Marriott downtown Phoenix. Travis read the notification 3 times, trying to make sense of it. The Marriott downtown was 15 minutes from home, right in downtown Phoenix. Scottsdale was 40 minutes away in the opposite direction. Why would Jessica check into a hotel in their own city when she was supposed to be at a resort miles away? He looked at the clock. Jessica had left the house only 12 minutes ago. 12 minutes. Travis's stomach tightened with a bad feeling he couldn't name but recognized well, as if a shadow had always been there, but he'd chosen to ignore it. He grabbed his phone and called Jessica. The call rang several times and went to voicemail. Travis hung up, took a deep breath, and called again. Nothing. She wasn't answering. Suspicion turned into something denser, darker. Without thinking twice, he grabbed his car keys and left the house, driving toward downtown Phoenix, his heart pounding, his hands gripping the steering wheel tighter than necessary. The Marriott downtown was an elegant glass and concrete building with a spacious lobby decorated with tropical plants and leather armchairs. Travis parked on the street, walked through the revolving door, and headed to the front desk, trying to stay calm. 2 attendants stood behind the counter, one younger, the other middle-aged. He approached the younger one, forced a polite smile, and pulled out his wallet. "Good morning. I need a favor. My wife checked in here this morning, and I just got a credit card notification, but I'm trying to confirm everything's okay with the reservation." He showed his ID and the transaction on his phone screen. The attendant looked at her computer, typed in some information, and nodded. "Yes, sir. The reservation is confirmed. Room 412, 3 nights, under the name Jessica Holbrook and Cameron Reed." The name hit like a bomb. Cameron Reed. Travis felt his blood run cold. Cameron Reed was Jessica's personal trainer, a 34-year-old man with an athletic build, an easy smile, and an annoying confidence. Jessica had started training with him 6 months earlier, always mentioning how professional and motivating he was, how he helped her feel stronger and healthier. Travis had never suspected a thing. Cameron had seemed like just another professional doing his job. But now, standing there at the hotel front desk, his name next to Jessica's on a 3-night reservation, everything made a painful, nauseating kind of sense. Travis thanked the attendant, turned, and walked to the elevator. His steps were firm, but his mind was in chaos. He pressed the button for the 4th floor and rode up in silence, alone in the cabin, staring at his distorted reflection in the polished metal doors. When he reached the hallway, he walked slowly to room 412, stopped in front of the door, and took a deep breath. He could hear muffled voices inside, laughter. Travis clenched his fists, raised his hand, and knocked 3 times, hard and deliberate. Silence fell instantly. He heard quick movement, nervous whispers, something falling to the floor. Then the door slowly opened, and there stood Cameron, barefoot, wearing gym shorts and a tight t-shirt that outlined his chest muscles. His blue eyes were confused for a second, then widened in panic when he recognized Travis. "Where's my wife?" Travis asked, his voice low but sharp with a cold calm he didn't know he possessed. Cameron opened his mouth, but no words came out. He stepped back, and that's when Jessica appeared behind him, coming from the bathroom. She wore the hotel's white robe, her wet hair falling over her shoulders, bare feet on the beige carpet. When her eyes met Travis's, all the color drained from her face. For a moment, no one spoke. The hallway was silent except for the distant hum of the air conditioner. "Travis," Jessica finally managed to say, her voice trembling, barely audible. I can explain." Travis raised his hand, cutting her off. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. His voice was icy, each word heavy as lead. "Scottsdale with your friends? A spa resort? You've got 3 seconds to tell me the truth, Jessica, or I'm calling Amanda and Melissa right now, in front of both of you." The silence that followed was deafening. Cameron tried to step away, backing into the room, but Travis moved forward, blocking the doorway with his body. "You stay," Travis said, looking straight at Cameron. "You're both going to listen." Jessica crumbled. Tears started streaming down her face, her breathing turned ragged, and she leaned against the wall to keep from falling. Between sobs, she began to speak, her voice broken and desperate. The affair had lasted 4 months. It had started innocently, or so she described it, with conversations after workouts, texts about diets and exercises, until one night, after a particularly intense session, Cameron had invited her for a smoothie at a nearby cafe. Their talks deepened. He made her feel young, desired, alive in a way she hadn't felt in years. Travis listened in silence, jaw clenched, fists tight at his sides. When Jessica finished, he looked at Cameron, who was pale, eyes downcast, unable to meet his gaze. "And this trip?" Travis asked, voice still controlled. "Whose idea was that?" Cameron hesitated, but Jessica answered first. "His. He said we needed time together, that he was tired of hiding, that he wanted to have me all to himself for a few days." Travis let out a short, bitter laugh, completely devoid of humor. "Time together. How romantic." He looked at Cameron with contempt. "You picked a hotel 15 minutes from our house. A real genius. And you, Jessica? You made up a whole story about Scottsdale, your friends, a spa resort. How many details did you invent? How many lies did you rehearse in front of the mirror?" Jessica couldn't answer. She just cried, her body shaking. Travis pulled out his phone and started typing. Cameron finally found the courage to speak. "Look, man, I'm really sorry. I didn't want it to go down like this. Travis cut him off without even looking at him. "Don't call me the man. You don't have that right." He held up his phone, showing them the screen. "I'm texting Amanda and Melissa right now. They'll love knowing they were used as an alibi so my wife could spend 3 days in a hotel with a personal trainer." He paused, staring straight at Cameron. Oh, and about that credit card you've been using so generously? It's corporate. Link to my company. Every transaction generates automatic reports. By the end of the day, my entire finance department will know you're a cheap gigolo who can't even pay for his own hotel. Cameron's face turned red with humiliation. Jessica stepped forward, reaching out toward Travis, pleading. Please, Travis, don't do this. We can talk, we can work this out. I made a mistake, I know, but we've had 31 years together. It can't end like this. Travis looked at her, and for the first time, she saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before, indifference. 31 years, he repeated slowly. You're right. 31 years of trust, partnership, building a life together. And you threw it all away for 4 months at the gym. Congratulations, Jessica. You traded everything for this. He pointed at Cameron with disgust. For him. Travis pulled out his phone again and took a photo of the two of them standing in the doorway. Jessica tried to cover her face, but it was too late. He put the phone away, looked at them one last time, and turned to leave. Before walking away, he stopped in the hallway and spoke without turning back. My lawyers will have everything by the end of the day. You two enjoy the hotel. It'll be the last peaceful moment you'll have for a long time. And he left, leaving behind a heavy silence. In the days that followed, Travis acted with surgical efficiency. He hired Phoenix's best divorce attorney, a seasoned, ruthless man who knew exactly how to protect the interests of a betrayed client. The evidence was irrefutable: text messages between Jessica and Cameron that Travis recovered from a cloud backup, credit card charges, hotel photos, all meticulously organized into a file presented to the judge. Travis also wasted no time exposing the truth to the people who mattered. He called Amanda and Melissa, the supposed friends on the trip, and told them everything. Both were shocked and horrified to have been used as cover for an affair. Amanda, who'd known Jessica for over 20 years, said she never wanted to speak to her again. Melissa was even more direct: she lied to you, lied to us, lied to everyone. I don't want that person in my life. Travis also made sure to send a detailed email to the gym where Cameron worked, attaching copies of the evidence and explaining the situation. The gym, which valued its reputation and had a strict code of conduct, immediately launched an internal investigation. Cameron was fired 3 days later, accused of unethical conduct for starting an inappropriate relationship with a married client. The news spread quickly among gym members, and Cameron soon discovered his reputation in Phoenix's personal training scene was ruined. No one wanted to hire a professional tied to that kind of scandal. Jessica tried calling Travis repeatedly, sent messages, showed up at the house begging to talk, but he never gave in. He'd changed the locks, blocked her number, and instructed his lawyers to handle all communication. When Jessica argued in the divorce proceedings that she deserved half the assets because she'd contributed to the marriage for 31 years, Travis's lawyer presented proof of infidelity and secured a much more favorable settlement for his client. Travis kept the house, most of the savings, the newer car, and even the retirement account they'd built together. Jessica was forced to move into a modest apartment on the outskirts of Phoenix, far from the neighborhood where she'd lived for decades, far from friends who now avoided her, far from the comfortable life she'd destroyed. Cameron disappeared from her life 2 weeks after the hotel confrontation. He sent a brief message saying he couldn't handle the consequences, that he'd lost his job, clients, and reputation because of her, and that he thought it best they go their separate ways. Jessica was left alone, without a husband, without a lover, without friends, without the life she'd known. She tried to rebuild, got a job at another clinic in a neighboring town, but the loneliness weighed heavily. She'd traded 3 decades of security and partnership for 4 months of illusion, and now she paid the price every single day. Travis, meanwhile, made an unexpected decision. He sold the house full of memories that now only brought him pain, the space that had been the family home for so many years but now felt haunted by ghosts of lies and betrayal. He bought a modern condo in downtown Phoenix, a high-rise place with large windows and a city view, no history, no past, no echoes of Jessica. He signed up for cooking classes, started attending a book club, reconnected with old friends he'd neglected during the marriage. He also began traveling more, visiting his kids in other states, exploring places Jessica had never shown interest in. Slowly, Travis discovered there was life beyond the marriage he'd assumed would last forever, and that this new life, though different, held its own pleasures and possibilities. He never spoke to Jessica again except through lawyers during the final divorce formalities. When the process was finalized, he felt a deep sense of relief, as if a massive weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Travis didn't start dating right away. He needed time to process, to heal, to rediscover who he was outside that marriage. But he knew that one day he'd be ready, and when that day came, he'd choose someone who valued honesty as much as he did, someone who understood that trust isn't easily rebuilt once broken. A year after that day at the hotel, Travis sat on his condo balcony, drinking coffee and watching the sunset over Phoenix. His phone buzzed with a notification, another automatic bank alert, this time about a savings account hitting a new milestone. He smiled wryly, remembering how exactly this kind of alert had changed his life. 12 minutes. Just 12 minutes after Jessica left the house, the alert had arrived, shattering a lie that could have lasted years. He wondered what would have happened if he hadn't gotten that alert, if he'd found out weeks or months later, or worse, if he'd never found out at all. The thought made him shiver. Travis picked up his phone and opened his photo gallery. He'd deleted all images of Jessica, all visual reminders of that marriage, but he'd kept one single photo, the picture he'd taken at room 412, Jessica and Cameron standing there, frozen in the moment the truth was revealed. He didn't keep it out of anger or bitterness, but as a reminder that trust is fragile, that people can change or reveal sides you never imagined existed, that vigilance isn't paranoia when your gut tells you something's wrong. He stared at the photo for a long moment, then deleted it. He didn't need it anymore. The lesson was already engraved. That night, Travis dined alone at a new restaurant downtown, chatted with the waiter about the menu, savored a glass of wine, and watched the people around him, couples sharing meals, groups of friends laughing, solitary people like him enjoying their own company. He felt a strange sensation, somewhere between nostalgia and liberation. The life he'd built with Jessica was in the past, and he'd made peace with that. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, Travis felt in control of his own story. He was no longer the betrayed husband, the victim of an elaborate lie. He was a man who'd faced the truth, however painful, and come out the other side stronger, more aware, freer. When Travis returned home that night, he stopped at the condo entrance and looked up at the lit windows of his 10th-floor apartment. That space was his now, built by him, for him, with no false commitments or broken promises. He went upstairs, stepped inside, took off his shoes, and sat on the couch, gazing out at the city below. And for the first time since that awful day at the Marriott, Travis Holbrook smiled genuinely, not a bitter or sarcastic smile, but the smile of someone who'd finally found peace. That 12-minute alert had shattered an illusion, but it had also saved him from years of a life built on lies. And for that, strangely, he was grateful. Because the truth, no matter how brutal, is always better than a comfortable lie. Always. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.